Hello, also in last video we saw how can we validate our SQL Server failover cluster instance. Now in this video we are going to see if we can configure our temporary database on local drive instead of shared drive. So if you look at this blog by Brent Ozar related to configuring temporary database for Microsoft SQL Server, and if you look at this particular paragraph, so what he has written is if you are using sandbag cluster, use local SSD for temporary database. Since SQL Server 2012, Microsoft has fully supported using local solid states, that is SSD drives, even in the cluster environment. So we do have cluster environment, but currently our temporary database is configured on shared drives, not on local drive. And he's asking us to configure that on local drive. Okay, use local SSD for TempDB. This has three benefits. Local SSD is often cheaper, it's faster, and it keeps your SAN path traffic freed up from your valuable user data file and log file reads and writes. Okay, so before we move forward, let's go back to our node 2. So as you can see here, I have 7 shared drives. One of them is quorum drive, and remaining 6, out of those 6, 2 are data drives, 2 are log drives, and 2 are temp drives, one for each node. Okay, but currently since our node 1 is down, all those drives are owned by node 2. Similarly, our SQL Server cluster instance is owned by or currently running on node 2. Okay, now if we want to move or configure a temporary database from shared drives to local drive, the very first thing which we have to do is create a local drive path. So what I will do for that is I will start my node 1. So I will start node 1. And also remember, there was a reason for which we configured all our system database and user databases on shared drives instead of local drive. Reason being, so if I go back to node 2, out of these 6 drives, forget about the quorum drive, out of these 6 drives, 3 drives were belong to node 1. When that node 1 went down, those those drives got migrated to or owned by node 2. Okay, and because of that our SQL Server failover cluster was possible. But imagine a scenario wherein we are configuring our database on local drive instead of shared drives. So if our node goes down, since those local drives are not shared drives, they will not be able to fail over. Okay, so how that thing will work? So now since we are configuring our temporary database on local drive, if that particular drive goes down, what will happen to our temporary database, whether it will fail over to next node or not? So that thing we are going to see now. So let me go back to node 1. Let me open node 1. Perfect. And as I said, since we need to configure those temporary database on local drive, I first need to create a path. So this is my local drive and my shared drives, all my shared drives are inside cluster storage. So I will create a path or a folder inside my C directory, which is a local drive. So MS SQL, and inside that I will create a directory called temp01, temp01. Okay, I will close this guy. I don't need this. This is fine. And I will open failover cluster manager. And if I check my role, SQL Server instance, that is currently owned by node 2. I will move that to node 1 now. Okay. So now my SQL instance is running on node 1. Let's check disk. So my disk are still belong to node 2, which is fine. It doesn't matter. It's still working. Okay. If I go back to disk, those disks are still owned by node 2, which is fine. Uh, Only one drive, data 01 got moved to node 1. That's okay. We'll not modify anything there. And both of my nodes are up. Okay. And my instance is running on node 1. Okay. Let me open SQL SSMS now. Okay. Now, since we have created uh, a path for our temporary database now, I need to make sure my temporary database points to this particular local drive instead of shared drive. So to do that, so let me go back to my documentation, and to move our temporary database from shared drive to local drive, I need to run few commands. And if you open this particular documentation, move system databases, if you scroll down, you will find this alter command. I'll copy this guy. Let me go back to node 1, minimize this guy, recover selected. I'm logging in as Windows authentication. I don't need all these create table and insert queries. I will remove that. And since I have 3 files, I will copy that command for 3 times. So let me go back. And if I, and so out of 4 system databases, I'm going to change only temp database. So I will move this guy here. Perfect. Now I need to, so out of these 3 files, 2 are MDF files and primary and secondary, and the third one is LDF file, log file. So if I go to properties, files, and as you can see here, one is LDF and the remaining 2 are MDF. This is primary and secondary. Okay, and this is the logical name. I will copy this guy here. Oops. And I need to copy this path. So I'm specifying my local drive instead of shared drive now. And let me give this file name as well. TempDB, tempdb.mdf, tempdb msql2, or I can give tempdb2 dot, this has to be ndf, and last is templog.ldf, templog.ldf. Perfect. So let's run this first command now. Okay, command got completed successfully, but it gave me some message. So let's read that. What it says is local directory this is used for TempDB in a clustered server. So it identified that this environment is a cluster environment. This directory must exist on each cluster node, and SQL service has read and write permission to it. Okay, so whatever drive I have created, this drive supposed to should exist on node 2 as well. Okay, or remaining nodes. Okay, currently we just have 2 nodes. So what it's saying is this directory, same path, should exist on cluster nodes. Okay, and SQL Server service has read and write permission to it. Okay, the file temp dev has been modified in a system. You can ignore this. This is fine. This first line is important. It is specifically saying this path should exist on other nodes as well, cluster nodes as well. As of now, I will not create that path, and we'll see what happens in case of failover. So let me execute remaining commands as well. and for each command it will give the same message. Okay, so now we have configured our temp database on local drive instead of shared drive. Okay, it will not show as of now. We need to restart it. So what I will do now, so last time when we shut down this machine or turned off this node, automatically SQL Server service moved to node 2. Okay, and we were able to run our select statement. So if I go back to node 2, this is still node 1, and I will let me keep it open, and I will open SSMS. So last time we ran a select statement on node from node 2 of our HR database. This time we'll try to do the same. Should not take much time. So if I go back here, I do not have MS SQL path here on my local drive, C drive. Okay, let me connect to, okay, and if I run this query, I should get file records. Let me change that to HR. Perfect. Okay, so this query is running fine. Okay, now let's bring down node 1. I will shut down node 1. Uh, Shut down. So ideally, if everything is correct, my failover should work fine, and that SQL Server service, my instance, Dgokta instance, should run on node 2. Let's see what happens. It is still in pending status. It is running. It's pending. It's still in pending state. If I go back, it will not run. It will not give me any result. It's still, status is still pending. SQL Server management studio is busy. Still in pending state. Now remember, except temporary database, my all remaining databases, data file and log files are on shared drive, but my temporary database, primary, secondary data file and log file is on local C drive, and that path doesn't exist on node 2. So for shared drives, it will not be a problem because those drives will get moved to node 2 or owned by node 2. But the problem is with local drive, C drive, since it is not shared, that will not move over. If I go to disks, all disks are up, this is fine. Node 1 is down, but my SQL Server instance is still pending. It's still not up. And reason is temp database. So that path doesn't exist on node 2. So what I will do, I think it will not come. See, the connection is broken. Even if I try n number of times, it will not work. And I can validate that. So if I go to SQL Server Configuration Manager, those services, SQL Server services, are not running. These services should run, but those are not running. Those are in stop state. See, it is still pending. It will not work. So what I will do, refresh. Okay, let me bring my node 1 up again. I'll minimize this guy. Node 1, I will start my node 1. Failed. So finally it failed. After several attempts, it failed. Okay, and it failed because of that Temp database. So we got that warning, we saw that message, like the path, since that path is local, that path supposed to be there on node 2 as well. So what I will do, I will create that path now on node 2, ms SQL and temp01. Perfect. And let me go back to my node 1. Let me open SQL Server Cluster Manager. Not SQL Server, Failover Cluster Manager. Okay, I will start this node. Start role. And now it will be up. It's running. And it's running on node 2. I will change that to node 1. It is running on node 2 because it found that path. So if I check SQL Server Configuration Manager from here, these services are stopped on node 1. Okay, but those services must be running on node 2. I will minimize this guy. Look at this. Let me refresh. Look at this. So those services are currently running on node 2. And if I go back, see, those files got created here on this node now. Okay, what I will do now is, so let's try that way. So currently this instance is owned by node 2 now. If I brought this node down, uh, let me run this guy. Yeah, and okay, now what I will do, I will bring this node down. Shut down, shut down, and let me go to node 1. It is stopped currently. It is currently owned by node 2. It should fail over to node 1 and this time it should succeed. Reason being that path exists on both the nodes. C colon ms SQL temp01 path does exist on both the nodes. Let's wait till the time it starts. Perfect, it's running. And let me go here and I will restart. Perfect. Okay, and if I open SSMS, I should be able to still query my database. I'll close these guys. We don't need this anymore. Select star from the perfect. Okay. So thank you for watching this video and see you in the next video.